Alright guys, I know I haven't made a tutorial in like a month, and I probably look like one of those other places that just makes like 2 tutorials and then stops, but in this tutorial we're going to be going over variables in Java. So if you don't do any other programming, then listen to this, otherwise you can just skip ahead to after I talk about what variables are. So a variable, if you remember from like middle school, is when you have a letter or something that represents a number. So maybe you might have an equation and they would be like 5 plus x equals 10, and then you would have to solve for x, like you'd subtract from that side and that side or whatever to get x on its own, and then you know what x is. Well, in programming, you just use variables kind of similarly. You just use them to hold a place. So, why might this be useful? Well, let's say that you're getting user input from someone who's using the program, and they type in a number, and then they type in another number, and you want to add them together. Well, then you would store each of those numbers in a variable. So you would say like x is equal to whatever the user inputs, and y is equal to whatever the user inputs after that. And then you would have your 2 variables, and then you could do math with them or whatever, and then you could output the sum of the 2 numbers. So now I'm going to show you guys the actual syntax for making a variable in Java and how you declare it, initiate it, all that good stuff. So I'm going to start with just integer data types, and then maybe we'll get floating points. We'll see. But in Java there's 4 types of integer data types. One is a byte, one is a short, one is a int, and one is a long. A byte, I don't remember the values. You can look it up. Java data, numerical data type values or something. I don't remember how high each one can go. I think byte can go from like -128 to +128. Short can do, I have no idea on these 3, but short is a little longer than byte, int is longer, and then long is the longest, obviously. For the most part, people just use ints, unless they're worried about like memory running out, then they might use smaller ones for smaller values, but for this one I'm just going to be sticking with ints for you guys, and yeah, so I'll show you how that works. So first, this is called declaring a variable. What you say is you do int x. Right there you've declared your variable, and basically what this does is it goes into the memory for Java and it says, alright guys, so we're going to take where the user is trying to create a variable called x, and so we're going to reserve some space in the memory that's going to hold the value of x whenever it gets assigned to something. So then it declares it so that you know that the name of x represents an int in a certain spot in the memory. And now the other part of using variable is assigning the variable. So then you would go x is equal to, and you don't have to use the int word again. You just want to say the variable name, x is equal to, and then say whatever you want it to equal to. For our case, we'll just do x is equal to 50. Now we have our variable assigned. So now every time in this program that we say x, it's going to go into the memory and it's going to say, alright, do we have a variable called x? Yes, we do. And then it's going to say, alright, what's x equal to? Well, x is equal to 50. And then it's going to make the value of x equal to 50. So if we write that to the program, it's basically the same as writing that. So next I'm going to go over the next thing. So here, let's do this just so that I can prove this to you guys. So you guys remember in the last tutorials when I made them way back or whatever, we printed out like hello world in here? Well, when you're working with string, which is like words and stuff, you use quotes there. If you're just working with like a variable or a number or something, you don't use quotes. So we just say x, and then like I said, it's going to say what's the value of x? X is equal to 50, and so if we run this, we should get 50. Save. Run. Should get 50 right there. Okay, so now my question to you is, what if we were to say x is equal to 60? Now the question is, will it print out 50 or 60? Can you reassign a variable to a different value? And lucky for us, the answer is yes. So that means, you know what, if you're making a program, the user like logs in and it saves their username in a variable, and then later on the user logs back out and a different user logs in, then you saved the different username in the variable. You can change the variable. That's why it's called a variable, because the value varies. Okay, now there's most of the time, well, not necessarily most of the time, but depending on the circumstance, I'll teach you guys about this, why you would do it each way later. But you can also just do this, and you can declare and assign a variable right on the same line. So I've gone over ints, shorts, longs, bytes. They're all the same except they can hold different amount of values.